Everybody, welcome. I'm going to get the kind of things kicked off here. It's at 9:30, and welcome. We're here today to talk about strategic planning. We'll introduce ourselves here at the beginning. Isaac, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Isaac Severs. I'm the superintendent of Lebanon City Schools in Lebanon, Ohio.
And Tom Speaks. Began the Impact Group about 24 years ago, and one of the things we do is strategic planning. And really going to talk, but only got about 29 minutes here. Really want to kind of give you guys just an overview of what strategic planning is. To take a big step backward, though, really any organization to have a strong organization, you almost have to have three things. You have to have strategic planning, you got to have good communication, and you have to have good culture. And the thing at the Impact Group we do is the strategic planning, communication, and the culture. If you have only two of those things, it's like a stool that is unbalanced. You have to have all three. The one aspect of the strategic planning is this is the most obvious thing in the world, right? But if you don't know where you're going, there's a really good chance you're not going to get there. And this is true for a person as much as it is, I would say, more so for an organization. Where clearly are you going to go? And how are you going to get all the different people in your community on the same train going forward? So we're going to talk about some things today, and I'm so honored to have Isaac with us from Lebanon Schools, the superintendent. We worked with Isaac on a strategic plan last year, and they're off and running. And just I'm so thankful you're here. Thank you.
Thanks for asking me. You started your brief introduction there of what strategic planning is, and I remember you started every session with that. And I listened to it. I got a little bit better glimpse of like, oh, that's why this work is really important, right? And every time you talked, whether it was students or adults or business leaders, it was what is a strategic plan and where are we going? And so I think that's huge for us to remind the people in the process what that looks like.
And it's huge. I mean, also just for the individuals on this call, we're huge advocates of for your own personal life. What do you want? I mean, if you, honest to gosh, right, go sit in the woods for a couple of days and sort that out. What do you want? Be specific about it, build a plan, and go get it. So for all of you out there, just as individuals, you have to have that, but it also as organizations. And Doreen actually just joined us as well. And thank you, Doreen. I know you were actually on a call with doing a strategic plan, so I appreciate that. Would you introduce
Yes.
yourself, Doreen, please?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Hello, my name's Doreen Osman. I am with the Impact Group since August. I am the Director of Strategic Services. So, strategic planning is something that I love doing, love working with districts and getting to know the individuals and the community.
And you and this share, you had a couple of years in the school systems.
Yeah, I have had. So I just retired from after 35 years in public education. I spent my first 14 years in Maple Heights, so I've have that first ring suburb experience, and then also I spent my last 21 years in the Hudson City School Districts. So schools. I understand you can give me any acronym, you can give me any letters. I know what you're talking about. And then also, I've spent 22 years on the Martha Holden Jennings Foundation. Schools know that foundation pretty well on the distribution committee. So, reading grants from all over the region. And then also, the last two strategic planning cycles, I was a team member for the Jennings Foundation. So, schools and looking at Ohio across the board has been something I've been engaged with for many, many years, decades.
Thank you, Doreen. So okay, so quickly, what strategic plan? There's three big things we got to do in a strategic plan. One is we have to have community engagement. We're going to talk about that. It has to be the community's plan, legit, and so we have to get their input. The second piece is we need to clearly know who is going to do what and how is it going to be measured. Who is going to do what? I don't know if anybody else has been on this call. I remember as a young man being involved in organizations, we have a strategic plan and we get the plan done and everybody'd be excited. And then a year would go by and somebody would say, "Did we have a plan? I could have sworn we had a plan." And that's not good. The whole point is this is a document which people own. There are specific things to move forward. The last thing is your crew needs to feel aligned at the end of the process, or they need to feel some excitement that there's a collective sense of this is where we're going and we're excited about it. So let's talk about the first element there, which is a huge one, the community engagement piece. Isaac, would you want to share just a minute just why that's so important in Lebanon? Uh, in Lebanon, you guys have just so many different constituencies, as all districts do, right? But to actually hear what the folks have to say, why was that important for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, this was the first time our district had ever done a strategic plan. So there had been nothing prior to that. And we really felt like the engaging a variety of stakeholders was important. It's a pretty large community of people that live here, but kids don't attend the schools. And so how do we get that input as well? Um, and we felt like finding student voice was important, staff voice was important, and then survey out that we put out to the entire community, not just parents. And so getting a variety of different pieces of input was important to us because we felt like it is what we believe, right, about our community, or the people that are in it every day may not be the same thing as those that live in our community, who are seeing kids and staff members out in public, but don't live in the buildings every day, so to speak. So getting a variety of pieces of input was really important for us.
I think what I applaud you guys and other districts that do this. It's gutsy to allow a third party to ask some questions. I mean, it really is. That's vulnerable, right? But I guess I've found, having done this long enough, that if a school district or a board of development of disabilities or whomever is asking the questions, the reality is a lot of people are nice. They don't they don't give you the good stuff. You end up hearing like the extremes. So I mean, some of the focus groups I know we did there, we could just got some really good substantive things to work on.
Yeah,
During
yeah.
kind of in your experience, during just as far as the community engagement piece, what has been most important for you when you're out talking to folks and getting that data?
I think setting it up from that third party perspective that we are here to listen. And then we will take their feedback, that we will take what they're saying, and themes will emerge, and that is shared with the district. And there is that anonymity that's guaranteed. We don't say, "Oh, Tom Speak said this." We look at it when we share the information with the district, making sure that we share everything, and that's important. So people trust us when we're in these focus groups, that the information will be relayed to the district.
And Isaac, what do you, either Isaac or Doreen, I've found the power of asking people's input.
Mhm.
If you want to, if people ask all the time, how do you build trust? Well, we talk a lot about trust, right? I mean, uh, we're a communications firm. We do communications. Actually, I take a step back. They'll come to us and say, we need communications. So we need a website and we need this and we need that. And Doreen and I will always ask first, that's cool, but does anybody trust you? Because trust is the foundation of communication. I don't care how nice your communication is, if they don't trust the source of that information, doesn't matter. So the power, I mean, Isaac or Doreen, just to kind of share, just humbly, you guys as leaders, us when we do it, just asking people what they think. What have you guys seen as far as that interaction with people when you're vulnerable like that? Isaac, you want to begin?
Yeah, I'll start. The thing that we heard in feedback from our community was thank you for asking. Um, Simply being asked was a big part of the process for them. We had some experience that it was a non-negotiable for us. We were going to put it out to everybody in our community because we wanted the feedback of everybody. Because several years ago we had put things out to our community, we asked questions, and it immediately drove some action in our district. And they thought, man, they're listening to us, right? They asked, which was huge. They listened to us, and we made some changes. And so I think it was for us, we learned a lesson in that process of the ask is important. The second part of it was it needs to drive action, and how do you share the information with them once you ask the questions. So it was a no-brainer for us, and I was thankful that the impact group's process was kind of multifaceted in that way.
Do you have anything on that, Doreen? Any comments?
I just think I want to capitalize on what Isaac just said. All are welcome. All are welcome. And so you set that, the impact group, we try to set that stage, and the district representative comes in and introduces us, and then they leave. So even that action is saying we trust that you're going to be honest, and you're going to give us your feedback and your experiences, and share those experiences with us. So really that message, all are welcome here, just sometimes alleviates the perception that it's this closed door and only certain people get to talk.
So can I say something about what I heard her say there? With our student focus groups, I intentionally stayed in the room with them, for a variety of reasons. It was extremely impactful for me to hear what they said. And then I went immediately to our junior high principal. And I was like, you'll never guess what they said, right? Like they got it. I mean, Tom, that was one of the most impactful like hours of listening to students that I think I've had in my career. The junior high kids really opened up. But when it came time for our staff, I introduced in a Zoom call, and then I told them, I'm logging off. You can check. My name's not going to show up on the list. We wanted our staff members to be able to share freely what experiences they were having as staff members and what their goals and dreams were for the district as well, without feeling like an administrator was listening to. And I think you got some really good feedback because we weren't there. So it was different depending upon the group. I wanted to clarify.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. With the student groups, we do like, even though I still hold my license, we still do like an adult that is employed by the district, and when we're working with students, but they are the most impactful. I think they are the most impactful. I want to share, students share. I had a focus group and a couple weeks ago, the student said, I just want a school to be a place where I can take off my mask and feel welcome. And so those are the kind of statements, and for us to pause and listen to our students, because that's really why we're here as a school organization, but also broader than that, making sure the point is listening to your stakeholders.
Yeah, man, we get the best darn information from the students. And also, honestly, there are people on this call from the boards of development and disabilities. I see some, Kelly and others. Individuals serve. Goodness, you get the greatest stuff. And just so the ability to engage. And again, I think there's really an appreciation there. Also, as Isaac said, just the disarming, just asking. I mean, it's not profound. And whether you work with the impact group or somebody else, just to get a third party to ask the questions. And it's not rocket science. It's what are, how are we doing? What are we doing really well? What are some things you'd like to see? How can we better serve your kids? How can we better serve you as a parent? How can we better serve the community? And man, and just stop talking, for Pete's sakes. Sometimes in those calls, if you're talking more than 5%, you're blowing it. You're simply asking follow-up questions and how come? What'd you think? And man, you'll get some great stuff. Something Isaac said a moment ago, which is huge. If building trust is the most important part of communication, the question is, how do you build trust? You build trust with a person by doing what you say you're going to do. If I say I'm going to do something and I do it and rinse, repeat a couple of times, like Tom is a trustworthy guy. It's the same thing with an organization. If there's an organization, you can say, this is what we're going to do. Then modestly you communicate to the community when it's done. After a while, people said, hey, that's a trustworthy organization. That's exactly what Isaac's talking about, I think, is just that you say that you project what you're going to do, you then do it, and then we build that trust. Either of you have any comments upon that, about just, it's almost like setting yourself up for success. You tell the community what you're going to do, then you do it, and then you're trustworthy. Any comments on that? And pretty straightforward.
It's pretty straightforward. Yeah. I will say my experience is it's been easier to lose trust than it has been to earn trust, because I think earning trust is that repetitive nature, right? Like consistently doing it over and over and over again. And this is my 4th year in the school district here. And I feel like when I came here, we needed to repair some trust. This process has helped us, along with some other things, listen and come up with a plan. And that plan is aligned to what people believe to be the important things that schools should be doing. And so it's taken time, right? And it's kind of like that. You make deposits by doing things repetitively over and over and over again. And then there's a big withdrawal sometimes when crisis happens, right? This is one of the processes that I think has helped us to build trust.
Boy, what you said there is huge. And we do a lot of crisis communication stuff too. And you nailed it. And one of the things we'll talk about when we do crisis communication is the best defense is offense. The best defense is you're continually making positive deposits in your reputation. And because again, I think if you have a bank account that's at zero and your family, you get hit with a catastrophic financial situation, you're in a pickle. If you have a nice savings account, it happens and you've got some reserve to draw on. Reputation is the same thing. Trust can be taken in no time, but you can slowly over a long time we build that. So well said. Okay, let's talk for a second. Just the idea about a strategic plan. Another huge piece is being clear about who is going to do what when. Again, one of the things that districts, that boards of DD, cities, communities, they have so many things to do. It's just how do we decide who's going to do what? So the process is that they're assigned to a specific, their goals are quite large, and then objectives are things we're going to accomplish over a multi-year period. You assign those to a specific individual and then have a timeline. Doreen or Isaac, just to kind of weigh in, how has that worked, Doreen, when you're putting these together, or Isaac from your end, as far as giving specific accountability around each of these objectives? Doreen, would you like to begin just about how that process is as far as finding that?
Absolutely. So I think it starts with the collaboration. Once those focus groups are completed and that summary is done, and understanding what those priorities are with the leadership team. So one of the things that I strive for, because I just came from the school end of this, is the strategic plan is not a to-do list. It should be something that that is actually that you're using, and you're guiding those tasks, and not when things do come up, you have the structures to respond. So whether it's a communication goal, or if it has to do with student learning, when report cards come out, you have this framework that are your guardrails, and you can veer off a little bit because things do come up, but making sure that those goals and the objectives and those action steps are actually actionable. We don't want to leave a district with this amazing, beautiful plan. It's going to look beautiful, and then you can't do anything with it. It should be something that you keep revisiting and easily accessible, and making sure that this really is something that can be accomplished, and that makes a difference, and that guides that overarching goal. And so we want to make sure school teams, a superintendent, the assistant superintendent, curriculum director, treasurer, they are busy enough, trust me. And our building principals are busy enough. This will help guide a big picture. It also helps bring clarity with the Board of Education too. Like, this is our plan. So, and where are those action steps? And it's something that to say, we're working on it. We are working on it. So, and let me tell you how. And so it really, it's a living, dynamic document, and things have to change over time, and that can happen. The way we structure.
Doreen said there was huge, and it's we call it the protection from the shiny object syndrome. I mean, we've all got board members, God bless their hearts, and they go to some conference, and at the conference there's like this, oh my gosh, there's this really cool program or thing or whatever, and they come back, they're like, we got to do this, and you have a choice. You can say, great, does it fit into our plan? And if it doesn't fit into our plan, we probably need to take something off of our plan, because we have a finite amount of people and resources, time, money, all of those things. So if it's used properly, the plan should be enough where you have guardrails to help with that. Isaac, on your side, how as far as the assigning to specific individuals with specific timelines, how did it go for you guys?
I felt like just to give everybody an idea, like we had 4 goals, and in those 4 goals, like 17 objectives, and it felt overwhelming to some of our people. Tom, you and I've talked about this, like, this seems like a lot. 17 is a lot. We were able to combine some things and do some things with that really kind of felt under one umbrella. I apologize. That's my phone ringing here. And get back on track. Sorry about that. So we were able to kind of get that narrowed down. But one of the things that was helpful for us was, like, we're doing a lot of this work already, right? This is giving a name. This is giving a purpose or a plan to that. We're always looking at student subgroup data and trying to improve student results and outcomes and all of those things that we're all really doing. but it's nice to have that as like, this is one of those objectives we're going to continue chasing after, right? And so if it doesn't fit into this, where does it fall? So we all got in a room, and it seemed to be kind of easy for us to assign, like, oh yeah, I'll take that one. I'll take that one. And Tom asked the question, when do you think you can start it? Right? When are you going to gather data? What's going to be, we start asking these questions. And then we realized, we look back at it afterwards, we're like, there's a lot of things that we're going to do in the next 6 months. That's not realistic, right? Because we can't do all 17 things at one time. And so it's been an iterative process even since we completed, right? And how can now we have a little bit different perspective on this, and maybe the person originally that was the leader of that, right, the chair of that objective is like, that's not they're not here anymore, right, as of 4 months later, or whatever it may be, or B, the perspective on that objective changed a little bit, and it's like, that's maybe not the building principle that took that as a chair now, that their responsibility or their wheelhouse. So it's iterative. It's a living document. The second thing is, and I applaud my board members. One of them last month said, like, I would like for you every board meeting to start talking about an aspect of the strategic plan and where we're at in that process. So it gave them some, like, we did this. How do we make it living document and not something that sits on a shelf? And also, like, where are we? We spent a lot of time and money on this. Tell me which ones we're working on. So we even in the first several months adjusted some of those timelines of, we're going to push that one off a little bit. This is a 3 to 5 year plan. This is it's not a 12-month plan. And so, and things happen, right? I'm gonna have to talk to Tom later about one of the things that we're working with them following the strategic plan was like, hey, we need some help in this area, right? Communication. We have a great communication director, but it's hard to communicate fiscal concepts and fiscal health. And so what are something we need help with? It came back that people said, hey, we think you're doing okay, but we'd like more information about that, or regular communication. Well, that's not kids reading in a classroom or sports teams, or whatever. That's a skill. And so, but then also, if it's a priority for us in the next 3 months, what happens when an employee needs to take some time off, and that now all of a sudden can't be the priority because the person, and so I think it has to be a give and a take. It's got to be something of working document. And that's one of the things that's been helpful for us, has been already making some changes to it based off of the work we're already doing, some things moving up and down the priority list.
What's so cool about that is, and I kind of chuckle because when I work with you guys, I said the same thing to you guys, gang, you're go-getters. You're going to want to do this all. You're going to want to do this all in the first quarter. You're like, oh no, Tom, we won't. And you end that first session with things are plotted out because everybody's a go-getter. And then what happens is just what you said, you kind of take a step away and like, oh my goodness, we have too much. And that's when the triaging starts. That's when the shuffling starts. And it's okay. It's a multi-year plan. You cannot do 17 objectives at once. And what you hit also is clear too. Anybody on this call that's talking about strategic plan with your staff, sometimes people hear strategic plan and they think, oh my gosh, this is a laundry list of new initiatives. I mean, people have new initiative fatigue, right? What Isaac said is huge. No, we're being very clear about who's doing what. I have a 15-year-old daughter who sometimes gets overwhelmed with different tasks and things. And it's very, I'll sit down with her and I say, honey, let's write down all the stuff that's on your mind. Let's write this all down. And just by simply getting it on paper and then deciding what we can do now and what we can do later, we do this with our kids all the time, right? It's the same concept. Your staff get so tense because we have to do all this stuff. One of our jobs as leaders is to say, hold on, gang, it's okay. We'll do this now. We'll do that a little bit later. And it's just, you can see the tension come out of people's hearts when somebody's taking charge of this. So in a strategic plan, it's kind of a larger way to do that. The last piece here is the idea that we want to make sure we have the idea that we're getting valuable input from the community. What you need to get surveys, you need to be doing focus groups, individual phone calls, you're gathering all that data. You have a situation where you're assigned at the end. Individual people know exactly what they're going to do and when they're going to do it. Great. The last piece here then is just having your crew unified, going in the same direction. So I don't know if Isaac or Doreen, just the idea at the end of this, you want to have people that there's a sense of purpose, there's a sense of we're going and we have direction. And Isaac, do you have any thoughts on that as far as at the end, people, there's kind of that sense of overwhelming, but I think there's also the sense of we have a clear idea where we're going.
Yeah, we were hoping to find something that refined the next idea concept, right? What's coming next? And so this helped us say, this is our plan. This is what we're working on right now. And so it gave us some view, and in a conversation yesterday with our curriculum director about something that was he was working on as an individual project. And I said to him, Mark, that's goal one, objective three, which is around student behaviors and and he's like, oh yeah, like it seems like this big topic of things. And I'm like, that's one of the things we're supposed to be working on anyway, right? Like, let's get to work on it, but let's make sure we tie it back to a strategic plan too, right? So how do you communicate it back to the plan to say, you told us this was important? This is one example of us doing the work. And so it gave us, it will give us and has given us some talking points of saying, we heard this from the strategic plan, and this is one of the responses to that.
That's excellent. We just got a question from Matt in the chat, which is a great question. What's your attitudes to being specific in the plan? Is it better to have measurable objectives, timeline, deadlines, or better to leave things intentionally vague? Strategic plans have evolved over time. I don't know if you guys remember 10, 15 years ago, you do a plan and it would look like 4 War and Pieces, right? I mean, it is crazy. Every item was spelled out with everything. And the reality is in 6 months, it was worthless because personnel has changed and things are moving so fast. There's different ways to do it. But what we advocate is there's specific goals and an objective, and then you define who's going to do it. And then you have timelines for baseline. When are we going to have all the information we need to decide where are we right now, whether that's surveying or data work or whatever. The next is recommendations. When can we have recommendations built to take us from where we presently are to our desired state, implementation, and then measurement. So the system we've been using, and again, do your research, find other systems, but we found it very effective to assign those specific elements, and then the plan itself, if the plan is to develop a new HR hiring process or whatever, and that is going to be done in year 2 of the plan, the idea is that's the work that would be done a little bit later. You don't define all that up front because we found it's overwhelming and it's also not practical. Doreen, anything on that front?
Yes, I agree. But the goals are structured in a way that it's that high level of what do you want to achieve overall. And so there's what I call not necessarily wiggle room, but if it's about a school's going to have student achievement, you're going to typically have some kind of communication. So what do you want? And so even if I know there's a lot of new legislation coming out, especially for schools, that the overarching goal is enduring. So it can endure over these 3 to 5 years of your strategic plan. So because that's the goal, that's where you're going, that's where you're headed. How you're doing that might have to shift. So that's where some of the action steps and how that gets done might have to be done a little bit differently.
Hey, Tom, can I comment real quick there about that question? I know we're up against time, but I wanted to say that, like, for me, I'm an analytical math person, right? You tell me what to do, you give me a plan, there's a recipe to baking and cooking, and I get tired when people don't follow the recipes. My wife is the exact opposite. So what Isaac Severs wanted out of this was detailed plans, right? That's what I needed personally. And I had to wrestle, right? There was a wrestling with like the overarching concept, but there's freedom in that also, right? So I will give an example. I went and looked at a lot of the impact group's work when we were deciding who to use for a strategic plan. They gave me some names. I went to the Hudson School website and looked at what their strategic plan looked like. And that's probably 2 or 3 iterations. This is our first strategic plan, right? We're establishing baselines and big pictures. You look at some of the things on Hudson's, and it was like improving specific test scores of specific groups of students.
Mm-hmm.
Probably because it was, I'm assuming, because it was identified in the first couple rounds that
Yeah.
those are things that needed to happen.
Yes.
Right. That's what, but you give me something and I can go, I want to improve the test scores of this specific subgroup, where what we got was looking at student subgroup performance,
Right.
identifying our biggest needs, and finding the ways and approaches to address those student subgroups of our biggest needs. Right. And we can tell you those now, but it's really about the process of what we're doing every time. So I think there's freedom in it having it be broad, right? Because from one year to the next, it may not be gifted, it may not be ESL, it may be, whatever the groups may be. And that's not exactly what I thought I was getting or wanting up front because of the way my brain works. And Tom's like, it's big picture, man, right? Like, it's like, it's big picture, man. Like, this is a framework and a roadmap. It's, so I wanted to say that I wrestled with that myself. So Matt, if that's like your question, is kind of like, I want specific things. That is something for me. And then we as a group then had to talk about that as well, right? This gives us freedom to make this, to have this go the direction that our district currently is going, as opposed to we're gonna focus on this one and then we're gonna whack them all, hit the next one, right? It all fit in a big framework.
The freedom then, because you obviously have to get specific, but the freedom to decide then, digging in a little deeper, what should our target be? What should we really zero in on? Absolutely. So we're going to end this the way we began it. And everybody, thank you. I can't say this enough. You got to have a plan. If you don't have a plan, don't be surprised when you don't arrive where you're trying to go. And don't be surprised when people come back to you with these crazy ideas saying, can you implement it? Because they don't. So whatever mechanism you use, I would suggest this not only for your organization, but for your life. What do you want? Define what it is, build a plan, and go get it. So we're the Impact Group. We'd be honored to work with anybody on strategic planning, culture development, or communications. Isaac, so thank you. I know you have 10,000 things going on, so thank you for your time. And Doreen, thank you today as well.
Thanks. Have a great day.
Nice. Thanks. Bye-bye.